Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. I'm going to take one more look at what makes an inexpensive reel cost less than the moderately priced or the expensive reels. And again, why you would want to buy one of these. So let's start with the last question, why you would want to buy one of these. These are entry-level reels. They're intended for the novice or to be lightly fished. They're not intended to be daily fishing tools. They're intended to work with the novice who's just learning how to fish, or the one that's going to have occasional use. And in the occasional use category would be perhaps somebody is going to go spend a week down at the beach, or maybe they'll go out on 2 or 3 trips a year. And quality is not that important. It's just the experience of getting out on the water. It's also a good standby reel if you happen to have a beach house or a cabin or something. It's an inexpensive investment, so that if somebody comes along and wishes to fish, you can have them use a reel similar to this one, and not worry if the reel gets ruined, because it's a limited investment. So this happens to be a South Bend Condor. It's a okay reel for the price. It's probably less than $20 US as a price. Probably comes on a pole, new most of the time. I call them department store reels. They tend to be sold by general merchandise outlets rather than bait and tackle shops. And we'll just take you through some of the things that makes an inexpensive reel cost less. The first is the engineering that goes into this regarding this, a graphite case. It's a plastic spool, and in this case, an interesting thing that I found on this reel is it doesn't even have access to the spool drags, which tells you it's intended for lighter use. I'm not sure how they did these, if they snapped this in or if they molded this piece on after the drags, but these drags are not removable. Most of the time you'll have a drag spool set up where you can pop a retaining ring, pull these out and clean these. In this case, that's not an option. So if anybody out there is watching and knows how they did this, I'd be interested to know. But right now, it's molded on the top. It does have 2 slots. I tried rotating this to see if it might pop out on the slots. That's not the case. And there's no access from underneath. Plastic spool. That's a note of quality there. These spools can crack. They're hard plastic. They can crack. They can chip. They can warp. If left near a heat source, these things can warp. So, but they're cheap. They're molded, and they don't cost much to do. Same thing with the button knob up top. Moving over to the rotor, pot metal or some kind of variation. Obviously, the paint did not hold this one very well, but it's not one of the more expensive alloys or aluminum or so on. Steel bale, we can see that there's even some rust coming on and some corrosion here, so it's not stainless in that regard. And nothing underneath in the rotor, by the way. There's no bearings in this reel. There are bushings. Okay, so let's go take this reel apart from the bottom. And we've seen a little bit of this reel when I did the reel that was frozen and trying to bring that one back. That happened to be a South Bend as well. This one's pretty much the same type of a setup, but we'll show you in case you didn't see that video. So it's not state-of-the-art engineering. It's certainly not CNC cut gears. It's not a ball bearing or 10 ball bearing reel for that matter. It's just good old school engineering. It will do what it's intended to do. If you catch a hook up on a fish, it's going to bring that fish in. It may not be the easiest reel to crank. It may not be the most durable if you whack the side plate somewhere. But if you catch a fish, the fish doesn't know what reel is on the other side of the bait there. Okay, so here's an example of the cost reductions, right? A plastic bushing. It's not even a brass bushing here. It's just simply plastic. In the engineering side, we've got a guide pin that rides in a channel, so we do not have a crosswind gear and a cross block. It kind of gives you a little bit more play. Some of the older reels have a similar design. They're held in by a pin, and that pin holds a shaft in place, so we can pull a shaft out. We can look at that shaft. It's rusted, so that's a steel shaft. It's not a brass shaft. It's not a stainless steel shaft. It's about as simple as you can get in that regard. Underneath here, this is the connecting point which drives off the gear, so there's no gear behind this one. And then taking it back off on the back side of this, we can see another plastic bushing here. And I'm not going to take the rotor off on this one. There's simply a bushing up top here and an anti-reverse clip. So one of the interesting things I just wanted to show you on this one is how that anti-reverse feature works. There's a little groove here, and it's not uncommon in reels like this. I've seen it on several different manufacturer reels, particularly on the lower end of these. There's a pin on the back of this one. Might be hard to see here with the piece, but there's a metal wire pin. Let's see if we can find a way to bring that up a little bit here. There you go. So there's a wire pin on the back here. That pin has to be threaded into that groove here on the bottom, into this groove, in order to make that anti-reverse gear work. And the way you do that is there's a hole, kind of an eye hole, if you will. You're going to line that wire gear up with that hole so that you can sight it as you reinstall. So we're going to go ahead and do just that. We're going to take this, we're going to sight. And it's really pretty easy to do if you have good lighting. So that's all you have to do there. Then we're going to just reinstall this, because the questions have kind of been answered, right? We've got pressed gears as opposed to cut gearing. We've got steel parts as opposed to stainless steel or aluminum or some other non-corrosive material. We've got plastic bushings instead of brass bushings, or more importantly, I guess, or more upscale ball bearings. We've got plastic spool, which may shatter, and those components all add cost, they all add feature, they all add convenience, they all add maybe ease of use or things like that. There's a lot of different pluses to those, but there's also expense associated with those. So if you've got somebody who wants to learn how to fish, you got a novice, you anticipate maybe having some folks come down and visit a shore house or a cabin or something that maybe hasn't fished before, then these reels are going to serve a purpose. They're going to provide an introduction to the sport. It's going to be a low-cost investment, so that if it goes unused, you don't feel badly about it. I'm putting the bushing back in. And it's going to give them a taste for what the sport is all about, and eliminate some of the worry that might go along with investing in a high-priced reel that winds up dunked or overboard or something else due to inattention, or gets slammed into a rail or gets dropped on deck and so on. So there's a lot of reasons why you buy that inexpensive reel, and quite honestly, that reel will always do what you bought it to do, which is serve as that introduction. Okay, I had to put that bushing back, so it's good because it's a review here of how you do that metal wire. You line the wire up again with that guide hole, kind of eyeball it in. And again, if you have a good lighting source, you can see that you're connected or not. And that's connected. Back in with the shaft. Now I've been skirting these little retaining washers here, which keeps that on, but these do come off if needed. Okay. It provides the balance as this cycles. Just a little shim washer. But they're important. Okay, we've got that lined up. Going to line the shaft up. Going to line the pin up with the shaft. Got this oiled too well, I think. I got all kinds of play going on here. Okay, that should be it now. A lot of moving parts here. For whatever reason, it's not pressing through. There we go. Alrighty. And then that rides in the shaft in the back here as well. There's a little cut groove on the side plate where that pin rides on the to balance that. Okay. I just simply put that back on there. Put the 3 screws in on here. And we can reinstall the spool. And the reel will show you that, again, it's a low quality reel in terms of the componentry. It's a low cost reel, but there are reasons to purchase this reel, and this reel will serve you well so long as you keep it maintained and lubricated. And that's where the biggest failure is in these, is that since most of these components are steel, the steel rusts, and that rust eventually causes the reel to seize. So here we go. We'll just put that handle back in now. Put the handle button on. And this reel will go fishing again. So I hope that's giving you a little bit more information. It actually showed you how to do that anti-reverse with the hole so that it stops. There you go. And if you experience that or encounter that on another reel, you know that's what's required to set that up. But again, it doesn't. It's not the most smooth operator out there. Certainly doesn't have the advantage of the ball bearings. Certainly doesn't have the balance of metal casing and the like, or the durability. But it's a nice reel, good price point, great entry level reel for an amateur or a novice in the game. Keep it oiled, keep it lubed, keep it cleaned, and it will do what you bought it to do for a long time to come. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, please like it. If you'd like to see more, please subscribe to my channel. And again, thank you for viewing the video. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle.